Silent Hill F doesn't really use its historical setting in a narrative way. There's no issue that comes up in the game that could easily be solved with modern technology, which means the reasoning, like most things in Silent Hill, is thematic. To be clear, I'm referring to specifically 1960s Japan, not Japan in general. See, the 1960s were a cultural crossroads in Japan, as the Allied occupation was well over, and with that occupation came unprecedented legal rights for women. But with the Allies retreating, conservatives were actively working to erase women's rights, and women who had just had their first taste of freedom were fighting to maintain their long overdue respect. This creates a unique horror setting for the game, as Hiniko's suffering isn't happening in a static oppressive system, it's happening at a critical juncture where society is actively recriminalizing female autonomy. Meaning that Japan in the 1960s wasn't simply oppressive towards women, it was hostile towards them. Where other narratives would depict arranged marriage storylines as romantic conflicts or personal challenges, Silent Hill F frames it as literal human trafficking and the destruction of Hiniko's systematic identity, depicting it as the economic exploitation it was that legally erased a woman's name from their families. In 1960s Japan, a woman's name was officially removed from her family register and added to her husband's. They ceased to legally exist as part of their birth family and became the property of their betrothed family. This is shown through the barbaric rituals that Fox Hiniko endures, having her arm sawed off and replaced with a fox's to show how she's lost her self-reliance and been replaced with her husband's. The branding of the family crest on her back to depict her as under the ownership of another, and the mask being the most on-the-nose example. The specific imagery of a fox for her husband is also thematic, as foxes, or kitsune, represent tricksters in Japanese folklore. This is reflected in how the patriarchal marriage system were institutional deceptions. Hiniko's not been attacked by evil, she's been absorbed into a system that disguises consumption with care. So the choice of a fox mask for Hiniko represents the complete erasure of her personal identity and having an institutional role grafted onto it instead. Then at the game's climax, Hiniko goes through another metamorphosis into a faceless bride beast known as the Shiromuku, whose namesake is the white wedding kimono worn at Shinto marriage ceremonies. Where in other faiths the white of the bridal wedding dress is symbolic of purity, in Shintoism, the Shiromuku is pure white so that the bride can absorb the colors of her husband's family, a literal erasure. The game takes this a step further by removing the creature's face, because she's already become an institution rather than a person.